So I'm back again with another Giga unit. Now, last time with Giga Lander, obviously every vehicle was a land vehicle. That's obviously where he gets his name. This is a fifth and supplementary unit. It is Unit 5 Giga Winger. And obviously it gets that name from the fact that it's a wing, a flying wing, like a stealth bomber kind of, except with two gigantic booster pods strapped underneath because why not? Admittedly, the transformation on this is a little bit lazy. If you can kind of tell what's going on here. It's not the most complex transformation, but ultimately the main focus was how this would combine with Giga Lander rather than how this functions as a singular unit. So I don't mind too much. It might not be showing up too well on my camera, but these tiles here are teal. They're not blue, or they kind of look sand blue on my screen at the moment. That's not what they are. They are teal. So this would be the teal unit. Obviously, it has red, but that's kind of just due to its componentry as a Gigalander's supplemental unit. The red is not its own color. It's not a secondary red unit. It is the teal unit. So obviously, since this is itself a Giga unit, you want to see it next to all of the other Giga units. So here is Giga Tank, who is actually the second largest now, if you're counting Giga Winger. Here is Giga Driller. Here is Giga Roller. And last but not least, Giga Cycle, who just barely fits in there. So, as you can see, that's the whole team all together, which I don't really have any kind of idea how this works if Giga Winger is actually part of the Lander team. I don't really care, honestly. These are just kind of fun little robots I built. Not for any kind of story or anything like that, just because robots are cool. So as I kind of alluded to earlier, the transformation on this guy is fairly simple. It's not exactly an extraordinary conversion, but let's get into it. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is kind of just flip him over, and yeah, as you can see, he's basically a robot laying down with wings on his back. But you want to bring down what will be the legs and then rotate the thruster pods to be his lower legs, and there you have the big tail fin will be his toe, and you can start to kind of bring up these wings. Do that again over here. And once again, these are teal. I don't know how well that's showing up on camera. It looks a lot more blue right now on my screen. But once you've done that, you probably want to raise the camera. And we can move on to the arms, which are, once again, incredibly simple. You just bring them down, fold down this panel, rotate it around, and bring out his hands like that. And then you can fold up the wing to be behind his shoulder. Once again, on this side, same verse, and second verse, same as the first. Then you have his arms. Bring up the wing. And then this little turret here that was on the front, it was kind of a turret under the cockpit, will be his head, which, yeah, kind of lazy, if I'm being honest. Having the head just kind of hang out under there as a turret. But there's kind of a reason behind that, which I'll get into when I combine him. So then once you have his head out, that's about it. There you have Giga Sky, if he would, or Giga Winger, if he would stand. There you go. And here we have Giga Winger in his robot mode. And obviously this is the second thing that sets him apart from any of the other Giga units. Not only is he not a land vehicle, but he also has his own independent robot form. I kind of view him as a partner to Gigalander in this form, but obviously he can also combine with Unit 1. Now, compared to Gigalander, he has a fair bit more articulation. His head doesn't just rotate, it also can look up and down on a T-joint. His shoulders here are on ball joints, so they're much easier to move. His elbows get a little bit, well, just about 90 degrees. His waist is a ball joint, so he can kind of wiggle and do some funky poses. Fairly free moving T-joints in the hips, and then a 90-degree bend at the knee, and a rotation there. So there are some bits of articulation missing, but he is a little bit better than Gigalander in that sense. So I mentioned that Giga Winger here is kind of a partner to Gigalander. So here they are together, and I feel like they look pretty nice together. Obviously, they have slightly different aesthetics. I feel like I could have matched that a little bit better. But ultimately, I'm fairly happy with how they look as a little duo. So I've talked a fair bit about how this guy can combine, so let's get into that. And this is probably my favorite part about this guy, because the way he combines is pretty cool in my opinion. Because what you want to do is just grab him and tear him in half. And these will form arms, and this will form a lower body. So let's start with this because it's a lot more simple. You just bring this down, bring the head down and around, and boom. There you have a lower body. Now we can get into these, which will be arms, and I like these a lot more. So what you want to do is just take this little piece here, bring it out, and you can rotate the cheese slope on it. Then the shoulder will fold up under the chest, and the chest will form a bigger, more worthy of a giant robot shoulder. And as you can see, the wing is behind the shoulder. Then you can rotate the arm and the hand there, and you have a much bigger, more impressive arm with the kind of the spike on the top and the wing on the back. And now for Gigalander here, obviously we just want to remove all of the limb components so that we just have the simple core of Giga Cycle. And now what we can do is we can bring in the new limbs that were formed by Giga Winger, sorry. Getting ahead of myself. And then once everything is pegged together, we can bring him back. And if he would stand solidly here, which is being a little bit tricky for me. Come on. There we go. You have Giga Sky. So yes, this is Giga Sky, and he is a rather lanky combination. I kind of like that look, honestly. It kind of has a agile look to me. The proportions aren't great, but in general, I think it looks pretty nice. And obviously this is the reason why Giga Winger had so much red on him, because he forms a kind of a second combiner with Giga Cycle. So that's why all this red was on Giga Winger the whole time. Now, as far as articulation, he's got T-joints in the shoulders, 90-degree bend at the elbow, T-joints in the hips, and the same knees, and the same ball joint at the waist, except now it can do a pretty serious ab crunch. So yeah. There's not too much to say about this mode, other than just kind of looking at it, and I think it looks pretty cool and appropriate as a kind of a sky mode. And now you might be wondering, but what about the rest of them? What do they do? And I do actually kind of have an answer. So you can sort of do a alternate combination with these guys. So it is a bit parts for me though. So you want to take this bit off of Giga Roller, and you want to separate Giga Driller here into two pieces. Then you want to kind of come to the underside of Giga Tank and bring this out. And then tear this into two pieces so you have the cannon and the piece it was attached to. And as you can see, it is, as I said, a bit parts for me, but otherwise there's just nothing for these guys to do, so I guess it's a worthy sacrifice. So then what you can do is take this chunk, which was the shoulder of Giga Driller, kind of bring it up like this, fold this back, and then this will peg onto Giga Tank where Unit 1 went. Then you can take this piece of Giga Roller and kind of rotate the headlight brick that's in the center here and attach this piece of Giga Tank to it, and that is a head. It's not great, but it is what it is. And there you have kind of a torso, a body with legs. And if I can bring the camera up, you can see him more clearly. And then you want to put on this chunk of Giga Driller, put the gun in Giga Roller's hand, and there you have Giga Try, which is what the other three Giga Lander units can do while Unit 1 is forming Giga Sky. Now, Giga Try here is a very, very simple little thing. His arms, his shoulder here has a universal joint, shoulder here, T-joint, 90-degree bend at this elbow, no elbow on the other arm, and then basically the same articulation on the legs as Giga Lander, because that's the exact same legs. So yeah, it's a fairly parts for me kind of thing, but I figure they should have something to do, even if it is a bit parts for me, as long as they can do something while Giga Sky is formed. Speaking of which, we can bring in Giga Sky for a little size comparison. So as you can see, Giga Try is about a head shorter. So that's about it for these guys. They were just some kind of fun little mecha builds I did. And after this, we'll be right back to transforming robots that are actually Transformers.